put in our rule here. And if we set them as read-write, we'll be able to modify their objects or modify their values, and the configuration variable or the configuration will remember that. Now, there's one caveat that I mentioned before is that the configuration will, or the variables will only be modifiable if they've already been initialized. So before we run this external program rule, we need to initialize the values of those variables. And to do that, I'm going to use a modify option or a configuration variable rule. And I'm going to modify area, and I'm just going to initialize its value to 0. And I need to change its number to like 51. And then I'm going to add one more for circumference. Set its value to 0. Make it 52. Like that. And we're going to see if this guy will keep our fingers crossed. I think I covered all my bases. And I didn't do this right. Oh, I didn't recompile this. I need to also there's a couple values here. And we'll see that I got my area comes back as 9, and I've got my circumference as 12. I guess that's right. So yay for math, did good. So that's how we can return multiple values back from the external programs. I know that can be phenomenally useful because if you're going to take the time to write an external program, you're probably going to want to do more than just one thing. So this is sort of the tool to allow you to return multiple values. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to register this external program. It's going to be a stored procedure external program. And I think, for lack of creativity, I'm just going to count the number of rules we have in our rule set from our rules database. So I'm going to call it SP count rule, and I'm going to call it a stored procedure. By leaving the server blank, it will go to the model server for the database. And I'll call this SP count rule. Okay. Now you'll notice here, we won't get into this too much, but you'll notice that there's the same sort of events on stored procedures as there are for in the COM world. But we're going to turn all those off. We're not going to call an initialize stored procedure, or reset stored procedure, or terminate stored procedure. We're just worried about the execute stored procedure. So this is it. This is all I need to do to register the stored procedure. All right, so let's add a rule that'll consume that guy. So up here, check this out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call that stored procedure, and that stored procedure is going to count the number of rules, as I said, and I'm going to pass it a parameter to show you how that works as well. And so we'll get to that. So what I'm going to do is add a key called, well, I'm going to just call it param1, but it's going to be a label. So I'm going to say count equals like this. And I'm going to put the results into the rule count variable, and then I'm going to show that variable in the screen right after that. Okay, and this thing's actually a string. It's not because I'm gonna put a label in front of it. Okay. All right. So I have a external program rule. It's going to pass a parameter of count equals a string, and it's going to return basically count equals 10 or 15 or however many rules I've got to the rule count variable that I have here in the return variable name. And then I'm going to just show rule count in this screen rule. Okay, so let's take a look at how that works. So I've got SQL Server running over here, and you'll notice I'm on my model database, and I'm going to just create a procedure. I'm going to call the SP rule count. Pretty simple. Okay, so basically that's a a quick template of what a procedure would look like. But you may remember at the beginning that I said that when we do external programs, they have to conform to an interface. And for stored procedures, it's a particular signature of a stored procedure. And that signature is basically this. And I'll copy this, since this is kind of small font. I'll copy it into here where I've got bigger fonts for you. Okay, so you'll see that when configurator calls a stored procedure external program, it's going to pass all this information to you. You're going to get the order number, the release number, line number, session ID, etc., all the way down. And if I have parameters, they're going to be added here. So I'm going to say param1 and varchar 100. Okay, so this is the parameter that gets added based on the rule. So in my rule, I added count equals. So that's going to come in on the param1 parameter. And so all I need to do at this point is do whatever SQL I need to do and select out a value. So this is going to look like this. Select param1 plus, put a space in there, plus count star from rules. Okay, so all I'm doing is selecting something out, and the way that the configurator is going to work is whatever you return as a record set from this procedure, it'll take the first column of the first row, and that'll be the return value. Okay, so in this case, I've got one column of one row, and that'll be my return value. Okay, so let me compile that guy, and we'll come back over here, and we'll keep our fingers crossed, see if we can. Oh, I called it rule count. Okay, so I named it the wrong thing. You see here, it's looking for SP count rule, and I called it SP rule count. So let me just take that guy, go into my functions and SP count rule, and just rename this guy to be SP rule count. Oh, yeah, okay. I'm not very good apparently at writing SQL. So cast param1 as in varchar. No, this one. Cast count as in varchar. That's what I needed. That's what I said. Okay, so let me change this to alter. All right. Fourth time is the charm. There we go. Okay. So you see, there's my return value from my stored procedure, where it counted up the rules and returned a value to me. All right. So let me jump back into our presentation. Okay, and just recap kind of what we covered. The external program, the reason we have them out there is because many times it's just much easier to accomplish what you need to accomplish by leveraging the tools and skills that you may already have on site, as far as writing COM objects, writing stored procedures, things of that nature. If you have those abilities, then it's relatively simple to both register and then consume these external programs in rule sets. The key being, you need to register it, and every EP has many things in common. It has a return value, it has a name, and it has a list of parameters. And so once you kind of get a feel for these concepts, all these EPs are going to become relatively easy for you to write and use, and hopefully bring